session. So okay, so in the beginning we can find uh, uh, a character list, a dramatis personae, which can be used to talk about the characters if the question comes on characters, individual characters, or this particular this particular characters list can be used for the answer on characterization. Um, and you can mention all of these minor and major characters in your answer, taking your cue from this particular section of the text that I found from somewhere. I don't remember where I got this text from, but uh, this is what I got, and this is the one where I have marked some important sections. For example, when the introduction begins, the beggar and the player, they are talking amongst each other. They are talking between. There's a dialogue between them, and there are some. There are some flags, there are some important sections within that which will help us to understand the text better. Okay. um, okay. So the beggar is speaking first, and the beggar and the player could be both John Gay and another player who plays the beggar, or it could be, any two fictional characters. But uh, the beggar is providing us a clue that why is this play or why is this opera being played at all. Now, there is a weekly festival at St. Giles or Giles, I do not know the exact pronunciation, and this is a jail in the disreputable district of Giles or Giles, how you want to pronounce it. And salary for my catches. Catches here mean songs. However, catches could also mean the impeachment done by the beggar, the the information that the beggar provides to the authorities, which helps them catch criminals. So, catches could both mean songs and um, the criminals who are um, who are made to who are sent to jails because of the information provided by people like the beggars. Okay. Now, um, and there is something satirical in the lines following. And I am more welcome to a dinner there whenever I please, which is more than most poets can say. So he is not welcome at a dinner, like he is not an invited guest, but he often goes to jail, and he often finds himself in the same cellars, in the same cell. um, and as you know that if you get caught by the police and if you are put in jail, then it is the government who feeds you. So that is also a career for many who want to have at least 2 meals a day, that they would do something very petty, like thieving or fighting or something like that, for which they will be put in jail for some amount of time where they will get enough to eat. Now, that also is a satire or is a dig. Uh, it's a poke at the society or the authorities and the way in which food, or the way in which the system works, where you are rewarded with food for going to jail, where the society does not provide you enough to eat. So if you do not go to jail, you might not get enough to eat, but if you do go to jail, you might get enough to eat for the maybe for the rest of your life, if you manage to murder someone or something. Anyway, so the player is responding to it, and he is this is a satire on contemporary women, and he says, the muses, contrary to all other ladies, pay no distinction to dress and never partially mistake the pertness of embroidery for wit, nor the modesty of want for dullness. Now, the muses of poetry, the muse of drama, play, they are contrary to all the other ladies, all the other contemporary ladies, and this is a social satire, satire on gender, satire on women. That according to the player, ladies pay more attention to dress. Like ladies, in general, at that time would be impressed by somebody wearing some fancy clothes, some rich clothes, some kind of uh, embroidered gold and silver or something like that. And the ladies back then mistook pertness of embroidery, sharpness of embroidery, or glow of embroidery of dress for wit. So if a person dresses well, then that person must be intelligent. That's what people in general believe, or that's what the player thinks that the women at that time believed. But this is satire is a double-edged sword. You cannot satirize someone or something without being satirized yourself. Once you start using this sword, which is double edged, it cuts you also. I mean, the hilt of the sword of satire bleeds the hand it holds. And I don't know who else said it, but I think that's how satire works. Good satire works, because this is a satire on the player also, the player who is saying these things, because he hardly understands women, contemporary or otherwise. It is not so simple. I mean, you cannot bunch all the people or all the people of a single gender in a single box. You cannot stereotype like that. Of course, women know that anybody who dresses well does not mean that he has a lot of intelligence also. It is only a matter of social norm and the way we have been trained to look at people, that we behave in a certain manner, and certainly a person who judges another person based on his or her sartorial choices is definitely a fool, and that's what the satire is on. Like, there are certain places which will not allow you to enter if you dress casually. There are some dress codes at some places. So then, nor the modesty of want for dullness. Again, satirizing the contemporary women, the player is saying, the character of the player is saying that um, dullness is dullness or dim wit, being not intelligent, being foolish, uh, is something that is based on how well you talk. But everybody who talks well does not is not very intelligent, because some people try to show off more than they actually are, and that is why they want to talk a lot, so that they can show off how intelligent, how attractive, or how suave um, they are. But uh, when a person is modest, that does not mean that the person is the person does not have any talent. So some people think that one who advertises himself or herself is more attractive, is more authentic, rather than somebody who is um, somebody who is modest with their words, modest in behavior, not aggressive. Next, Beggar says, "This piece I own was originally writ for the for the celebrating the marriage of James Shaunter and Moll Lay, two most excellent ballad singers." So the Beggar is giving some kind of a background behind his behind this play, behind this um, choice of the play, and he says that this is to celebrate the um, the marriage of two people who were excellent ballad singers. Okay. Uh, then in this section that is marked here as a comment, satire on the formulaic use of literary devices in usual operas. So we in our discussion on Beggar's opera as an opera, we found out that it is not really an opera because in our discussion we figured that there were more points against it than for it when we were talking about whether Beggar's opera is a real opera or not. And here, the beggar, perhaps John Gay himself, because playwrights often used to play some small role in the play themselves to save some costs of employing other actors. So, and this is continued in our Bollywood or even Hollywood movies also, where the producer becomes the lead actor in order to save the money to hire a professional actor. Anyway, so he is commenting, the beggar is commenting on um, the the form of Beggar's opera, the form of the neoclassical form of Beggar's opera, and as far as I remember, we also discussed that form was very important as far as the neoclassical norms were concerned. Neoclassical literary figures or neoclassical literature, neoclassical literary standards often paid a lot of attention to the form in which a particular writer is writing, the formula which a particular writer is following, because for them sometimes form became more important than the content. Uh, Today also we find uh, this issue of form gaining over content. Like sometimes we pay more attention to uh, how a thing appears rather than what the thing really is. Again, if we refer to the player's satire on women in general, um, your dress, the way you present yourself often becomes more important than who you really are or what is your behavior in general. Anyway, let's read this section up and try to see how is it a satire, how is it a satire on the formulaic use of literary devices in usual operas. So let's start from here. I hope I may be forgiven that I have not made my opera throughout unnatural, like those in vogue, for I have no recitative excepting this, as I have consented to have neither prologue nor epilogue. It must be allowed an opera in all its forms. So, this section could also be useful for the topic Beggar's opera as an opera, because the beggar who is supposed to have written this opera is saying that I hope I may be forgiven that I have not made my opera throughout unnatural. It means that all the other operas, those were in vogue, those were in currency at that time, were highly unnatural. They were romantic. Uh, they really had no connection with real life whatsoever. And he is begging forgiveness for making the opera realistic. And now this is a strong paradox, that how can an opera which is completely based on form have realistic content? I mean, if Karan Johar suddenly starts to make um, realistic movies, I don't know how successful he will be, but if he tries to do it and if he makes it, then it will be a complete paradox. That how come Bollywood and Bollywood of Karan Johar or Yash Raj movies churn realistic realism or realistic pictures of the society. Um, and he says that for I have no recitative, like there is no recitation, there is no narrative intrusions other than the one that we are in right now. Also, the opera, like other operas, it does not have any prologue or epilogue, and yet he says, he prays that this play, this opera, is considered, is given the name of opera in all its forms. So from this section we can get some reference to um, the topic Beggar's opera as an opera, and it is also a satire on the this section could also be used for the topic on satire. So I better, okay, fine, I will just keep it like this. And then let's move to act 1 scene 1, and I am providing you with an explanation of what is an AIR or an air. As you can see, it's a self-contained piece for a single voice. So a single person would sing this song. It's akin to the songs that are sung in Bollywood movies, which comes in between the scenes, or these songs are sung at very crucial moments the of the screenplay, where the songs are used to heighten the emotive response, or heighten the situation, or to make the situation more appear more attractive or more deep, because music helps in that. So an air is a self-contained piece for a single voice, and the name of the air and the name of the song is An Old Woman Clothed in Grey, and etc. So what does it say? If it is not important for our purposes, we will not read it, but there are some airs which are okay. Anyway, let's move on to the next important section, and we find it in the dialogue of Peachum. So of course, a satire uses various devices, and humor is one of the satirical devices used by writers. So here Peachum says that there is nothing to be got by the death of women except our wives. Now at the same time, this is a very patriarchal dad joke kind of a thing, and here wives are shown as the source of all trouble, and with the death of one's wives, there is less of a trouble in the household. বাংলাতেও কথা আছে যে অভাগার গরু মরে ভাগ্যবানের বউ মরে। Okay, so this joke also tells us a lot about the society in which we live, not just when we lived, but the society in which we live. And wives are often considered to be a burden on some husbands, and they think that the sooner they get rid of their wives, the better. And this line shows the attitude of Peachum towards women in general, but we need to make a subtle distinction here. Peachum, Mrs. Peachum is not a wife to Mr. Peachum. So, while he thinks this about women, husbands, and wives in general, Peachum himself has not subscribed to the institution of marriage. So that is a different thing about Peachum, or the way in which the character is created. Anyway, this might be funny for some, and this might be funny in general during the time in which it was produced, but it also carries some sort of stereotyping. It carries some negative stereotypes. It is patriarchal to the last L. To a large extent, this is very patriarchal, where women, where the role of the women um, are, you know, minimized, or there's another word which starts with D, but I can't seem to recall it right now. So the women are considered to be better. I mean, a woman who is a wife, her worth is considered to be better if that wife is dead. Anyway, let's proceed. Okay. So here there is a comment which says that when Peachum says that truly Filch, thy observation is right. We and the surgeons are more beholden to women than all the professions besides. Now, why? Someone of you might raise your hands, and I might try to understand why. Why do you think Peachum says this, that surgeons and people like them, we and the surgeons, are more beholden to women than all the professions besides? You can also put your thoughts in the chat box if you are shy to talk, or you can simply unmute yourself and say what you think is going on here. Why surgeons and why people like them are more beholden to women, are more they deal more with women. They are indebted to women. Anyone? Okay, Mohul wants to go. Okay, Mohul, your idea.
Because the surgeons are dealing with women who are pregnant or women who are giving birth.
Hmm. And why the thieves? I mean, Peachum and Filch, they are thieves.
Because women have more liquid commodities like jewelry and the investments of the middle class. The women have more things on them which can be stolen.
Yes, right. So Filch, if you have read the text, would know that he Filch says that without dispute she is a fine woman. It was to her I was obliged for my education, and to say a bold word, she hath trained up more young fellows to the business than the gaming table. Now, uh, Peacham finds Filch's observation correct because the the surgeons depend upon the women for childbirth or for other kinds of operations related to that. Their entire practice depends on the women. Similarly, Peacham and Filch, they are thieves, and on one hand, it is the women from which they can steal more easily, because if you steal from a woman and make a run for it, then it is less likely that the woman will be able to catch up with you, because the women were never encouraged to run very fast, or they used to wear skirts, or now in our uh, society they used to wear saris, which is not very conducive for fast running. But men can run along with the thieves for some time at least. That's one thing. Another thing is that it is from women that thieves learn how to steal. And Filch is Filch is showing his gratitude towards a woman that Peacham has decided would go into exile, rather than like other thieves who are sent to the gallows, who are executed. Um, this lady that Peacham has found to be a threat to him is being asked to, or is being punished by exiling her from England. Now, I think this is a lady that we are talking about. Yeah. So Betty had brought some goods into our lock to year than any five of the gang, and in truth, it's a pity to lose so good a customer. So they are talking about this person called Betty, and Betty seems to be a very fine thief. And in recent movies, or in earlier movies also, in Hollywood especially, there have been an emphasis on the fact, there have been many movies which say that women could steal better than men can. I mean, take up any Mission Impossible, or even in Dhoom 2 or 3, I don't remember which Dhoom. Aishwarya Rai was a master thief. Again, however, the skill of thieving or daredevilry belong to men, but women, according to many people, or according to some annals of criminal history, women are better at anything men can do. And if men can steal, women can steal better. So maybe Peacham is trying to say that surgeons depend upon women for their livelihood. Similarly, thieves, highwaymen, dacoits also depend upon women, on one hand to learn the art of thievery, to learn how to steal, and on the other hand, they also learn how to they also get to steal from them, because as Mohul pointed out, that women would wear more jewelry, or would actually carry their mobile phones usually in their hands, because many women do not wear trousers and they do not have pockets, or they have like two small pockets where the big phones will not go in the contemporary scene. But back then, the women were wearing more ornaments which can be stolen, unlike men who do not wear too many ornaments. But again, in contemporary world, men are also sporting earrings and chains on their necks and stuff like that. But I think it's mostly city gold or something like that. Anyway, so that brings us to the second song, and there is a note here on arms, and it's something to do with patriarchy. And the last line might be pertinent. And beauty must be feed feeded or feed into our arms. So beauty must be feeded into our arms. Like, the women belong to the, or within the arms of men. That is what the song tries to say, or that is what this particular song is trying to say. And it is, of course, a patriarchal thing to say, that beauty belongs beauty belongs to the arms of men, and the men are the guardians, are the protectors of beauty. So that's why I have marked it here. And it could be a satirical dig also. Let's move on to the next important section. Okay, so we are hearing going through a kind of we are here going through a kind of roll call of the thieves. And Mr. Peachum is doing his impeachment, and Mr. Peachum is figuring out what should be done to whom, what should be done to which thief, and how to get rid of one thief or another according to his own plan. So, Slippery Sam, these names are important because Slippery Sam is not a, a very it's not a real name. And of course, this is a play, and there is some kind of melodrama, there is some kind of heightening, there is some kind of exaggerated imitation. So keeping in tune with the way in which uh, keeping in tune with the theme of the play, which is about thieves and conmen and highwaymen, Sam is slippery. He is very hard to get caught. The authorities have been trying to get a hold on Slippery Sam, but Sam always slips away. Just like that dialogue from Dawn, you know, the Dawn acted by two greats of the Bollywood industry. Um, Amitabh Bachchan also says that Dawn का तलाश तो 11 मुल्कों की पुलिस कर रही है. So, I mean, I'm not saying that Sam is that macho, but I mean, he is slippery. You cannot really get hold of Sam really very easily. So, Mr. Peachum says that Slippery Sam, he goes off the next sessions, for the villain hath the impudence to have views of following his trade as a tailor, which he calls an honest employment. So now this gives us a view to the underworld. I mean, any kind of underworld will not allow you to leave once you enter it. It's a one-way traffic. It's one way. You once you go in, you never come back. And Slippery Sam will be sent to the gallows. Slippery Sam will be impeached because he wants to make an honest living, because he wants to become a tailor and he wants to earn an honest employment. And it is a rule in the underworld that if you join any gang or if you work for any syndicate, then you will not be allowed to uh, take up any other profession unless they ask you to do it for their own reasons. You will not be allowed to go independent. You will not be allowed to go away from them, because they will fear that you will be telling tales about them to the police or to the authorities, and you know the secrets, you know where they hide their stash and stuff like that. And if you are allowed to go away, then there is a possibility that you will tell on them and they will get caught by the authorities. So once you join a gang, you cannot leave it until you are dead, or you become the boss yourself. And if and tailoring, according to Peachum, is not at all a very honest employment, because as we found in the play Macbeth, that the tailor was also in hell, and tailors often steal clothes from their clients and sell them or do whatever they want to do. So Peachum is satirizing tailors in general. I don't know what he has against tailors, but he's pointing out that in this society, hardly anything is an honest employment. So, if even if Slippery Sam wants to take up an honest living, his erstwhile gang and its boss will not allow that to happen. Now, as I said that this is a roll call of rogues, and we find various kinds of names and how they function, and this could be an important section for characterization, because some kind of explanation is given to why these names are so. For example, Tom Tipple, a guzzling, soaking sot who is always too drunk to stand himself or to make others stand. So he triples because he is always drunk and he cannot stand straight, and he cannot put a gun on anyone's face to make them stand, to make them hands up, because he is always drunk. Robin of Bagshot, Elias Gorgon, Elias Bluff Bob, Elias Carbuncle, Elias Bob Booty. Now, this is interesting, this is amusing, that a single person has so many aliases. Of course, if you are doing a business in the shady district, if you are a shady personnel, you will have various names. Some people have different names in their different social profiles. Some people are called Meghir Palok and Megh Balok or something like that in their Facebook, and then I don't know, very peculiar names in Instagram, and then they are called something else in somewhere else, uh, with some emojis of heart and something like that. Even in WhatsApp, it's very difficult to understand who this, or what the name of the person really is. Similarly, in this case also, or this could be satire on poets who take up pseudonyms, uh, and for same reasons, that if one pseudonym is unsuccessful, then they will take up another pseudonym. And in our society, we also know that criminals often take up various aliases in order to evade the law. Let's move on. Okay. um, so in this line, patriarchy, theme of appearance and reality. So here we find a theme of appearance and reality in Mrs. Peacham's dialogue. You know, my dear, I never meddle in matters of death. I always leave those affairs to you. Women indeed are bitter bad judges in these cases, for they are partial to the brave, that they think every man handsome who is going to the camp or the gallows. Now, in your fourth semester, you will be reading war poetry, and uh, in that section, there might be a poem by either Sassoon or other anti-war poets, including Owen. And in one of the poems, Wilfred Owen, which I don't know if you had read in your UG days, says that dulcet decorum est pro patria mori, which means that it's good and decent, it's brave, it's beautiful, it's very inspiring to die for your nation. Mori means to die for patria, for your fatherland. It's very very glamorous for a person to die in war, die fighting. And women often think, according to Mrs. Peacham, women often think that a person is brave who has either been sentenced to death or who is going to the camp, who has joined the military. And these are the only two professions where bravery can be displayed. So the Chapri Nibba, who rides the KTM very fast, or is a local thug, is a local dada, who beats up people who are less powerful than, or less sinewy than they are, or these local dadas make a lot of posture, and they act tough, they look tough, they wear maybe the Salman Khan thing on their wrists, and they may be doing push-ups and all that. This is an appearance. And according to Mrs. Peacham, of course, is satirizing women in general, who could be satirized for this, that many women think that people uh, who are brave should get their attention, and intelligence or generosity or things like that do not really matter. But they consider only those people brave who either are in the armed forces. Of course, armed forces, I mean, you need to have some sort of bravery to join and go through the training of the armed forces. It's not for everyone. But it does not mean that only those people who go to the armed forces or who join the armed forces are brave, and no one else could be brave. But I mean, it's even a traffic police is a very brave person because he stands in the sun, and this sun. So a laborer is also brave, braving the weather. Either it's heat or it's rain or it's winter, they don't care. They just do their jobs. The delivery boy who comes to deliver your ice cream, fighting this bitter heat, is also brave. But in general, we do not associate bravery. We do not associate a laborer or a rickshaw puller or a traffic sergeant with bravery. We usually think that people who are going to fight, or the local Chapri Nibba and the local Dada, they are brave because they show that they are brave, but actually they are not. So, in that sense, women, according to Mrs. Peacham, will not be very good judges of death, because they will be partial to those people who appear to be brave, and they will let them go, or they will let them live only because they are brave. Of course, when we say this, we should also mention that things are not so simple, things are not so black and white. There is an instinct, uh, I mean, the animal world, we are all animals, and though we have evolved a lot from four-legged creatures to two-legged and all that, but there is an instinctual response to bravery, because a woman or man or people in general, human beings or animals in general, they are more interested in continuing their legacy of genes, and a brave animal will ensure food, and a woman will, a female of the species, though not all male of the species hunt, but some do, and the female of the species would choose a bigger, more brave, quote unquote brave animal, so that that animal can bring home food. So that reptilian part of our brain gets activated when we see a big surly burly man with a really fast KTM, because the KTM can bring food more quickly. Well, I'm maybe this is uh, I said that in a vein of in a lighter vein, but there is an instinctual response to bigger bodies rather than bigger minds, or bigger uh, cars or bikes than bigger grades or something like that. So while Mrs. Peachum is satirizing women, gay satirizing women in general, but when we apply satire, we need to talk about um, the the other aspect also. The defense should also be mentioned along with the the satire that we are bringing in. Let's move forward. Do stop me if you have any questions. Do uh, if you have any comments, if you want to say something contrary to what I am saying, or you can simply add something to whatever I am saying. Okay, because I cannot see what you guys are doing, and many of you might have fallen asleep or might be engaged in other social media activities, and there is no way I can see what is going on because I am on another page anyway. Okay, Mohul has raised his hand. Yes, Mohul.
স্যার, আপনি যে এয়ার এর কথাটা বললেন, যে দ্য
Hmm.
সংস সাং বাই পার্টিকুলার পার্সন, এইটার সাথে কি সলিলোকির কোনো সিমিলারিটিস পাবো আমরা?
Hmm. Yeah, you can see in structure they might be similar, because like the soliloquy, a song is sung by a single person, but unlike a soliloquy, it is not supposed to be unlike a soliloquy which is not supposed to be heard by anyone else. Song is supposed to be heard by everyone else. um, because this is more of a public performance rather than bathroom singing, where we do not want to hear where we do not want anyone to hear what we are singing. But soliloquy is supposed to be verbal thoughts, whereas songs like these in an opera is definitely made to be more extrovert, to go out rather than to uh, you know rather than to show the thoughts that is going on within the minds of the characters. But yes, there are certain similarities in terms of structure, but in terms of content and in terms of intent, a soliloquy and a song like this would be very different. Okay.
ওকে স্যার।
All right, so next section, where I have marked is it's humor is exuding here, and a murder among them all these 7 months. So let's read a little bit further in order to put things in context. Why is it humorous? But really, husband, you should not be too hard hearted, for you never had a finer, braver set of men than at present. We have not had a murder among them all these 7 months. So, Mrs. Peachum, displaying the finesse or displaying the qualities of a soft hearted lady, uh, tells Mr. Peachum not to be too harsh, not to be too hard hearted. That's what some women might be telling their partners when their partners get really very angry or they try to be strict with the children. Um, and here, Mr. and Mrs. Peachum do have a large family. I'm not talking about Polly only as their daughter, but it seems that all these thieves and dacoits, all these pickpockets, they form a very large, though a dysfunctional family, where the mother and the father are both thieves, and they shelter a lot of these kinds of shady people in their gang. And sometimes the mother, who is usually more strict in the house, uh, tells the father not to be more strict with the children. Sometimes when the father suddenly realize that they have some duty towards their kids and they should be stricter, they should be more stern towards their children, and the mother, who gives small doses of discipline, worries if the father is too tough on the children, then the children might run away or commit suicide or something like that. So Mrs. Peachum is saying that, we did not have a murder for 7 months. This is good. Like, if you do not have a murder in your family, or if you do not have a murder in your company for 7 months, then that's good. Because earlier they were having murder maybe every week or every month. So see how this is an inversion of the social order. This is how gay mocks the society. This is how gay mocks the rigid pyramid hierarchical structure of the society, where it is it will be a very ghastly news for us to hear that there is a murder in their culture, in the underbelly of England. uh, the absence of murder for 7 long months is quite a feat, and Mrs. Peachum is quite impressed with these people because they have not murdered each other in the last 7 months. Because a murder is a common activity amongst these people. Okay. So that's why it's supposed to be humorous. I don't know if you smiled or felt funny uh, while reading the text or right now, but it's supposed to be funny. Anyway, let's move on to the next section. Okay. Now, Mr. Peachum says the captain keeps too good company ever to grow rich. Marybone and the chocolate houses are his undoing. Uh, I don't know what a marybone is, but a chocolate house is not really a place where you can find chocolate. It's a veiled reference to a brothel, or a place where you can get a pub, a discotheque maybe, and they are talking about McHeath, the captain. and he spends his money. He spends all his money in the marybone and in the chocolate houses on prostitutes, on drinks, and all that. Marybone, I think, is another shady business like that. Gambling, maybe a place where you can gamble. Uh, so gambling and indulging in uh, sexual escapades and debauchery is the undoing of the captain, and the captain cannot be rich because he keeps too good a company. He spends lavishly. That is why he cannot ever grow rich, because he spends most of his time in the gambling, in places where gambling is done, and he indulges in gambling, and he also uh, indulges in debauchery. So let's move on to the next section. Again, it's Peachum. Peachum has a lot of interesting dialogues. Uh, Gamesters and highwaymen are generally very good to their horse, but they are very devils to their wives. Now, this is a very um, stringent satire against husbands in general. It is a satire against, it's an attack against patriarchy, where um, Peachum is trying to say that gamesters and highwaymen like McHeath, they treat their mistresses or they treat their prostitutes with care and love, but they are not very well behaved towards their wives. That is not just true about gamesters and highwaymen, that is usually true about many people. They are more, they behave in a different manner with their wives at home, and in a different manner with some attractive women they find in their offices or places of work or places in general. Of course, money, it is often said that, घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर, and और की दाल मुर्गी बराबर, something like that. So that is a general behavior of people, and it's just gamesters and highwaymen who are named here, but the actual satire is against all the people who behave in this fashion, behave in a two-faced fashion with women as wives, and women in and others' wives. uh, okay, so here the plot is thickening, but we need to know why is the plot thickening, and this is Peacham's dialogue, and we'll try to see what is being meant here. So let's read the entire dialogue and see. Look ye, wife, a handsome wench in our way of business is as profitable as at the bar of a temple coffee house, who looks upon it as her livelihood to grant every liberty but one. You see, I would indulge the girls as far as prudently we can in anything but marriage. After that, my dear, how shall we be safe? Are we not in her husband's power? For a husband hath the absolute power over all a wife's secrets but her own. If the girl had the discretion of a court lady, we can have a dozen young fellows at her ear without complying with one. I should not I should not matter it. But Polly is tender, and a spark will at once set her on a flame. Married, if the wench does not know her own profit, sure, She knows her own pleasure better than to make herself a property. My daughter to me should be like a court lady to a minister of state, a key to the whole gang. Married. If the affair is not already done, I'll terrify her from it by the example of our neighbors. Now, here is a tirade against marriage, and also very Juvenalian satire, very stringent, very acidic satire on uh, court ladies and ministers. Um, Marriage is not profitable for prostitutes. We have discussed it. And why is it not profitable for prostitutes? Because, like an actress, once upon a time, it was marriage was looked down upon in Bollywood because, for some strange reason, a Bollywood actress will not get many movie deals once she gets married. Some people think that after marriage, a woman loses her sheen or a woman loses her charms, and an unmarried woman is always better when it comes to some kind of presentation where the face, where the looks matter. I mean, if someone of you wants to become a flight attendant, then there is a requirement that you need to be unmarried and you need to be of a certain age, because because a flight attendant and air hostess needs to look very pretty. I don't know why, but you know, uh, some guys think that it's cool to it's profitable to sit in a aeroplane because they get to look at beautiful air hostesses, me included. I thought it was very interesting to look at them, but I I, I figured that it is not so, and these people help the passengers. Actually, they are not there just to look pretty and play doll in the airport, in the aeroplane. But anyway, they look pretty, and that is why maybe they don't want them to get married. I don't know uh, the reason. There could be some industry secret, but anyway, so uh, a prostitute is here compared with a court lady. Their functions, according to Gay, are similar, and this is what angered people a lot against Gay. That how dare he compare court ladies, peers, aristocratic women with prostitutes? Um, though it sounds bitter, though it sounds very uh, sexist, or it sounds very uncomfortable, many of you might feel uncomfortable, but politics in the higher ups, business, industry, uh, glamour industry, they all depend a lot upon how well a woman can manipulate the other party. You have seen many spy movies, James Bond, and it is usually a woman who puts James Bond in trouble. Sometimes, not always. And charmed by a woman, a spy often gets into some kind of a honey trap. You have read newspapers. In the newspapers, we often find that an air force officer or an army officer or a naval officer has been compromised because that person has fallen into a honey trap. I mean, a honey trap is simply uh, a scam where an army officer is befriended by somebody on the Facebook, and then they enter into a kind of a relationship, and then the lady blackmails the man and tries to get the secrets of the government. I mean, it sounds very Bollywoodish, but it does happen. And similar things happen in the higher echelons of power also. So everything depends upon the charm of the woman. If a woman is charming, she can have her way through the world. That is what Mr. Peachum is trying to say. And there are many instances in daily life where a charming lady would be allowed to sit. Somebody would give her a seat, not a woman who doesn't look really pretty. These things make us uncomfortable, and this is what gay or satirists in general want us to be. They want us to be very, very uncomfortable. And these dialogues make us uncomfortable. These dialogues made the audience of Beggar's Opera very uncomfortable. And the final punchline is that if Polly has not already married Mekheeth, then uh, Peachum will try to terrify her out of that marriage by giving the example of their neighbors. Yes, anyone has something to add or say? There was somebody who unmuted or something? No? Okay. So, what is the example of our neighbors? Of course, neighbors who live near us and they fight because they are married, and people should learn from them that uh, you should not get married because marriage invariably leads to fights. So um, Peachum will try to dissuade Polly from getting married by giving her example of their neighbors who often fight, who often indulge in brick batting. Okay, next section, and it is a subversion of patriarchy. As in the earlier section, we found a subversion of the idea of marriage. Here, there is a subversion of patriarchy and some humor too. Mrs. Peachum says, "Never was a man more out of the way in an argument than my husband. Why must our Polly, forsooth, differ from her sex and love only her husband? And why must Polly's marriage, contrary to all observations, make her the less followed by other men? All men are thieves in love, and like a woman, the better for being another's property." Well, Mr. Peachum, though he thinks that he is very clever and he is very man about the town, he is very smart, it is actually Mrs. Peachum who is smarter than Mr. Peachum. Mr. Peachum has no idea about the psychology of women. Mrs. Peachum understands it. That why should a woman only love her husband? Now, this particular statement was not only did it create an uproar back then, but it is as blasphemous, as scandalous as today as it was some 250 years ago or 200 years ago. If a person says, or if a person agrees, declares that it is okay to love another person along with your husband, then বাংলায় যেটা বলে একটাও মার নিচে পড়বে না, সবকটা পিঠের উপর পড়বে. So in our society we think that a person, a human person, a human being, even animals should not love more than one person. However, I tried to defend um, against one satire by bringing into factor um, instinct, animal instinct. The same animal instinct that was used to defend could be used to defend this idea also, that women, men, human beings, animals, all of them are not meant by nature to, I mean, most of the animals are not meant to spend all their lives with only one partner. There are wolves, there are swans, which usually have one mating partner, but the other 95% of the animals, including apes, from whom we have descended and we share their genes, nature has not created us to love only one person. And Mrs. Peachum is just laying bare the facts that, like all other women who just do not love their husband but someone else also, why should Polly only love her husband? And it is actually marriage that makes other people, other men, interested in women. And now I will ask someone of you, uh, to answer why this is so. Though the answer itself is given in the following lines, but still, I would like some one of you to answer. However, I will give a break of 5 minutes, and then we will resume. Do not leave the meeting, stay there. We will come back after 5 minutes. Okay. By the way, you can discuss the question amongst yourselves loudly. That will be also recorded, or on the chat box. Okay. Okay, so we are back from the break. Everyone here, I hope. Um, yeah, so are you guys ready with an answer? Do I forgotten what the question was? Just a minute. What was the question? I think the question was like, why does Mrs. Peachum say that, contrary to what people believe, marriage will make Polly more attractive to other men? Yes. So anyone? I mean, I want this answer from the ladies present here. Anyone? Why do you think so? Or is this true? Is this true, or is Mrs. Peachum, or does Mrs. Peachum not know the collective psychology or the psychology of people in general? No one? The ladies won't try to venture, hazard a guess? Why? I mean, yes, no, yes. Shreyoshi.
Basically, as human beings, we have the nature, like instinct to possess something, but it's still that.
Shreyoshi, your voice is not clear to me. Could you come again? Maybe you can try a headphone, or maybe if you are using a headphone, try removing it. Meanwhile, anyone else can try. Okay, so she says, as human beings, we have instinct to chase after something which we can't possess. Hmm. So you agree that men in general would actually be more interested in a married uh, woman rather than to an unmarried woman. Do you agree to that? You can answer in the chat box also, or we can have a kind of a vote. I don't know if uh, this system allows us for a vote, unlike WhatsApp, where we can, uh, say whether this is true, whether we think this is true or not. Anyone else who would agree, disagree with Shreyoshi? This time it could be the gentleman also. While you decide to hazard a guess, this goes a long way in discovering the character of Mrs. Peachum. Mrs. Peachum is not just a sidekick to Mr. Peachum. Mrs. Peachum has a mind of her own, and she is very smart. She calls a spade a spade. She is really street smart, and she knows what are the strengths and weaknesses of her gender, and she tells very hard facts, harsh facts, in a very lighter vein. Yes. So, sir, can Mrs. Peachum wait? Uh, can Mrs. Peachum be considered a close replica of Lady Macbeth. Yes, but why do you say so, Mitro? Why would you compare Mrs. Peachum with Lady Macbeth? What is the point of similarity? There are points of similarities, yes, but why? And why through this dialogue? Why is this dialogue? Why would this dialogue make you think that there is a similarity between Lady Macbeth and Mrs. Peachum? Okay, Shreyoshi has a long message here. Yes, usually married women are like forbidden fruit, even after knowing the act is sinful for some pseudo chivalrous men, the act becomes more desirable. Okay, since Mrs. Peachum has been in a line of profession which allowed her to meet a lot of men, married and unmarried both, she understands male psychology, hence the dialogue. Yes, very correct. Pseudo chivalrous. Hmm. Right. What do you mean by this term pseudo chivalrous? What is chivalry in men? So you believe that there is chivalry? You can just say yes or no, and that is what I mean. Without waiting for your answer, yes, because she knows Mr. Peachum business well, and she even becomes a dominant person in case of Polly being not married. She becomes a dominant person in case of Polly being not married. What do you mean?
Sir, because she doesn't want Polly to get married in case her business and her reputation will be gone as
Hmm.
a prostitute.
Okay.
And sir, where we are seeing Lockett, Peachum, Mackett, all male characters dominating the underbelly of London,
Mm-hmm.
she's the only female character who is leading from the front, except Diana Trepp, she's a minor character.
Mm-hmm.
And sir, Polly to a some extent is sort of a romantic character. She believes in love.
Okay. So, what if she believes in love?
Sir, in the entire play, the concept of love is sold in the market like products. Nobody believes in love. Not
Okay.
even the married, not so Mr. Peachum and Mrs. Peachum not even married, but they
Hmm.
still have a child.
Okay. So that leads us to a lot of serious questions, a lot of serious issues the with the contemporary, that is the neoclassical morals and values as far as marriage is concerned, as far as love is concerned, which has a direct bearing on the theme of love and marriage in the play. Also, it has a lot of bearing, it has a lot of uh, relevance to how we see things in our world, in our society today. And that also answers the fact that Beggar's opera is not just relevant, was not just only relevant 200 years ago, but it is relevant today as well, and in equal measure. But Shreyoshi said something interesting. She said that pseudo chivalrous men. Who are chivalrous men? Can Macheath be understood to be a chivalrous man? But what is chivalry according to you, Shreyoshi? Or anyone else can jump in and try to answer that they what the concept of chivalry is this according to you. And I am focusing the word chivalry, or I'm focusing on this particular dialogue because it has a lot of bearing on the entire text, a lot of bearing on neoclassical social psychology or even present day psychology. Shioshi, you can try to unmute and speak again, or if maybe you can. Yeah, okay. So, usually, chivalrous men are someone who is kind, generous, has humor, and gentle charms. Okay, so these kinds of people exist. Okay, and pseudo chivalrous are not genuine one, rather those who uses them to lure women, try to attract them. Hmm. Macbeth is not a chivalrous person or character. Hmm. These are very interesting things that have come up, and that is what I like about interaction. Who would agree or disagree? Like people who agree that the definition of chivalry or the definition of chivalrous man that Shreyoshi has given, we will come to Shonmitra later, but Shreyoshi has some significant contribution here, and she is saying that chivalrous men are those who are kind, generous, have a sense of humor, they have gentle charms. Who among you, all 29 of you or 28 of you, believe that this is true? Raise your hands, all of you, who believe that this is the meaning of chivalry. And yeah, I mean, raise your hands if you believe that what Shioshi has written is the definition of chivalry. Oh, sorry, Macheath. I said Macbeth. Sorry. Of course, Macheath is not a chivalrous person. So no one is raising their hands to say that they agree with Shioshi, or why the lack of activity here? So everybody refuses to believe that what Shioshi has written is the definition of chivalry. Yes, no. Okay, Mohul does not agree with Shioshi. Who does agree with Shioshi? Whoever agrees with Shioshi, raise your hands. No one agrees with Shioshi. No, what I want to tell, I want to say is that Shioshi is right. The definition is right. That a chivalrous person is a person who is usually brave, honest, who has manners, who considers women to be respectable, and just by being just because they are women, they should be respected. And pseudo chivalry is the show of bravery, honesty, manners, but having none of them. And the show, quote unquote show, is to attract women towards them. Now this is very problematic. How do we know who is chivalrous and who is not? Sean Mitro says that Macheath is not a chivalrous person because he's a liar, he's a cheat, and he's always trying to save his own ass, and he doesn't care about the feelings of other people. But the problem is,
Sir,
yes.
I want to add something here. The
Hmm.
thing is that men sometimes fake to get women, or if we can arrange it in a bit nice manner, men are showing fake love sort of thing to
Hmm.
get women. But
Hmm.
the thing is, a person like Mekheeth,
Hmm.
why would he go for chivalry or even fake chivalry? Because
Hmm.
I think the place that he visits,
Hmm.
that in the text it is mentioned that he
Hmm.
visits a brothel.
Hmm.
I don't think that there he would have to fake. to get woman. And the
Yes.
kind of person he is, why
Hmm.
would someone expect fake chivalry from him to get woman? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we cannot be entirely wrong or we cannot be entirely right when literature is concerned. Um, Shonmitro, do you want to answer this tirade against Mekheeth, or rather, I think Sneha is trying to defend Mekheeth, or is she?
No, no, sir. I'm not trying to defend Mekhi. I'm basically saying that why would he fake?
Hmm.
He is
So,
a person who is like a highwayman.
mhm.
So why will he fake? He has already lost all his morals. Does he need to show any more here to attract women?
Yes, and that brings us to a very problematic concept. What actually attracts women? Is it really chivalry? Or, as we agreed earlier, that one should be able to earn enough, in our case, in our human society, or a man should be burly, a man should be strong enough to bring food. So, who is pseudo here? Who is doing some sort of pretense here? You see, I mean, I don't know if John Gay thought about all these things while writing the dialogue, but John Gay is undoing, John Gay is tearing apart the fabric of our society. John Gay is making us question our own assumptions about our convictions. She says that, chivalrous persons, and I don't know if she believes that these kinds of people really exist or not, but she writes that chivalrous person is someone who is kind, generous, and so on and so forth. But why do we need these kinds of people? Who needs them? And is the is there a necessity that has mark the words invented chivalry? Is Mekheeth the real deal? Is Mekheeth uh, the only real person in the play, along with Mrs. Peachum, Mr. Peachum, and Polly, and and all the other heroes that we have known till date are actually pseudo, and Mekheeth is the real person, as Sneha tells us. This might make us very depressed, and it might shatter our romantic ideals about male chivalry and male uh, and gentleman behavior of men. But through this dialogue, Mrs. Peachum, and of course, actually John Gay, shatters our ideals, beliefs uh, about chivalry, about the notions of gentlemanhood, or the notions of gentle womanhood. We believe that there is a watertight compartment between chivalrous people and non-chivalrous people. And however, I believe this chivalry exists in our mind. That is the ideal that we want to follow. But unfortunately, in our world, all we will have, the best that we can have, is a Mekheeth, according to Gay, according to Mrs. Peachum. that all men are thieves in love. Some thieve, some steal property, some steal women or their hearts, and this goes on and on. So, in this topsy turvy world of, and Sneha used a word called morality. What kind of morality do you want McHeath to have in the world in which he lives? The kind of morality that you require to live in the jungle is to eat before you are eaten. And that's what McHeath does. So, is Songmitro, is McHeath still not a chivalrous or a likable person? That is a question that you have to grapple with. Yes, Songmitro, your response.
Sir, as readers, we cannot defend Makith. He has done nothing virtuous or tragic to defend himself.
Mm-hmm.
At the very end, he surrenders, he realizes his mistake, and he tells Polly to go for somebody else.
Hmm.
That sir, if I'm not wrong, that portion is for the poetic justice or for
Mm-hmm.
the audience response to be a happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
But we cannot defend Makith. Nobody is real in Beggar's Opera. All have their own business. Nobody is real.
Or maybe that is real.
Except,
That is the only real thing in our world, isn't it? That we all have
yes,
our
sir.
own businesses and we do not care. And you see, in Beggar's Opera, we are not seeing a play, we are seeing a mirror. We are observing a mirror, we are looking into our own reflections and we are not liking it. Men, we cannot accept that we are McHeaths, and women cannot accept that they are Mrs. Peachums and they are Polly's or they are Lucy Lockett's. This is something that we take away from Beggar's Opera. That,
Sir,
yes,
I can I add something here?
yeah, sure.
Actually, what I wanted to say is the general perception of men that we are having for ages, that is that a male person is expecting a female person to be in his life so that she serves him. Even if we see men nowadays, the thing is that they are having a bit of changed perception. The things like equality are coming into scene, but we don't know if the two people who are in the initial stage of their relationship, they are having like equal contribution, but after some years of marriage, the thing might be in a position that again the male person has the authority and the female person is sacrificing. But again, I'm not defending Makith, but he is a person who is not having any filters from the beginning of the scene. When he is as he is. If we take people like Darcy, throughout the novel, like Austen is portraying him as a person who is like very much initially he hates Elizabeth, but lastly when he understands her, he is very much into love with her. But we don't know what will happen 10 years after the marriage. But here Macheath is a person who is from the initial stage, he is that he is. After 10 years, he will be the same person, the same selfish person, even if he continues to stay, and he is not a person who will stay with one woman. So this is how I perceive Macheath.
Very good, yes. So then McHeath is the real deal, and to disappoint a lot of ladies present here or elsewhere, McHeath is the most real thing that we will get. All others are making a pretense. They are showing something which they are not. But at least the Chhapri Nibbas, they are their surface and their depths are similar. They do not have much depth as far as intellectual depths are concerned, but I could be wrong. I should not stereotype. But there are far more dangerous people who appear to be very chivalrous, who appear to be very gentlemen, but in the depths of their uh, psyche, they could be monsters. But people like McHeath, as Mrs. Peachum say, that even after getting married to a person like McHeath, who will not treat Polly properly, Polly will attract more men because she will not get the kind of treatment that McHeath will give her. Because McHeath will disappoint Polly, and Polly will go towards other women, other men anyway. You see how many turns this dialogue takes, how many things fall out from this little dialogue, and so many things that we realize about ourselves, that we realize about the so-called chivalrous people. However, the answer that I was searching for, I was trying to have a poll. Maybe we can have this poll in the WhatsApp group. That do you really believe that the people described by Shreyoshi really exist or not? Of course, we will not be talking about uh, our fathers, because I think we got a notion of honesty and hard work and gentlemanliness from some of our, or maybe most of our fathers that we have grown up seeing. But men in general, like not including dads, so, or maybe brothers, I don't know. We can have that thing later. Okay, let's proceed a bit. Uh, Now, degradation of women. So this song, named "Of All the Simple Things We Do," etc. Now here, now there, is brought or sold, and is current in every house. So we should do good to read this song. A maid is like the golden ore, which hath in guineas intrinsical in it, uh, whose worth is never known before. It is tried and impressed in the mint, a wife's like a guinea in gold, stamped with the name of her spouse, now here, now there, is brought or is sold, and is current in every house. So this is how a woman is looked upon, not just in their society, but in our society also. First, the women are compared with golden ore, and nobody knows what is the exact value of a particular lump of ore embedded in a stone. But then it is, the ore is extracted, the gold is, the maiden becomes a wife, and she is now compared with a guinea. She is prepared in the mint of the society, and then she becomes a guinea, a gold coin, and she is named, she's stamped with the name of her spouse. So very relevant. And the punchline is that she's now brought or sold, and is current in every house. So a woman, a wife, is dehumanized. She is brought and sold like an article. Her worth is not the worth of a human being, rather, her worth is in terms of gold. Many of you have lately watched the movie Lapata Ladies, and I believe that movie teaches us a lot about these issues that we are grappling with here. And women are often considered as objects of desire, objects which can be sold or bought. Um, A woman's worth is usually considered in terms of how much gold she has brought from her uh, father's house to her in-laws' house, or how much articles. Because there is a scene in the movie, early in the movie, that um, what's his name? The character's name is Deepak. Deepak is bringing his newlywed wife, and he's in a train, and somebody asks him that, "What did you get in marriage?" And he had to stay silent because he did not get anything in marriage other than the woman he loves. And yet he is not bold enough to say that what I got is something that cannot be valued, that cannot be that whose worth cannot be understood in terms of gold or currency, and that is love. He 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 married the woman. I mean, he got married and then he fell in love with the woman, but whatever, the love is there, and that's what he wants, that's what he got from the marriage. Let's move forward. And Filch has a dialogue, and this is important because it shows that there is honor among thieves. Okay, so I shall lead a sad life with Miss Polly if ever she comes to know that I told you. Besides, I would not willingly forfeit honor by own honor by betraying anybody. So, Filch is a thief, is a pickpocket, but he has honor, and he will not betray anyone else. Now, if you have seen a professional thief being beaten up, or being given a treatment in the police station, or when a thief is caught, they usually do not divulge the secret of their gangs. They will not tell where the other people are hiding or what the names of other people, even if they get beaten up really very badly. But normal people like us, at the drop of a hat, at the slightest hint of a danger, we will abandon our friends. Many of you will agree with it, many of you won't, but many of you who agree will must have had a similar experience. It is the gentlemen, it is the gentle ladies, it is the gentle folk in our society who would abandon you at the slightest hint of a danger, but it is always some low life, some riffraff who would jeopardize their time, jeopardize their well being, sometimes even money, to help a person who lies unconscious on the ground after being knocked out in an accident. People in cars usually do not bring accident victims. It is always the auto rickshaw driver, or the chota hati driver, or some other person who does not value his or her time more than the worth of a man's or a woman's life. It is they who do these things. Some of them might be thieves, some of them might be just simple people, common people, but that is what Filch is trying to say in a satirical vein against the rich and the mighty who do not have any honor amongst themselves. Okay, let us stop here today. But if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them if I can. No questions? Fine. If you do not have any questions, you may leave the meeting.